one and all. As I, on behalf of our committee, reconvene this 5th meeting of the Special Select Committee to consider the notifications from His Excellency the President in relation to Section 123 of the Constitution. We have invited this morning the Police Complaints Authority, and I might advise that this meeting is being held in public and will be broadcast at a later time on the Parliament's Channel 11, Radio 105 FM, and the Parliament's YouTube channel, ParlView. Might I remind the listening and viewing public of the mandate of this Special Select Committee, which is to obtain information, documentation, and/or evidence relevant to and/or touching and concerning the method, process, criterion, and considerations utilized by the Police Service Commission and/or the firm employed by the Police Service Commission in the selection of candidates for the position of Commissioner of Police and Deputy Commissioner of Police, to enable the House of Representatives to consider the notifications submitted by His Excellency the President pursuant to Section 123 of the Constitution, and to report to the Parliament by March the 31st, 2018, which time has gone, and I might inform the public that we secured an extension of time from the Parliament, and we must now report by the 30th of June, by the 27th of April, 27th of April, 2018. In this regard, I would like to formally welcome officials of the Police Complaints Authority, which body has been before various committees of this House on diverse occasions and will be in the future, yet again, no doubt. But I would like to invite you to introduce yourselves for the benefit of the record, the members of this committee, and the general public. A very good morning and welcome.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. My name is David West. I'm the Director of the Police Complaints Authority.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and everyone. My name is Michelle Solomon Baksh. I am the Deputy Director of the Police Complaints Authority.
Thank you very much. Equally for the record and for those of the listening and viewing public, my name is Fitzgerald S. Albert Hines, Chairman of this committee, and I'll invite my colleagues to introduce themselves.
Rudal Monilal, member of the committee.
Good morning, Terence Dial Singh, member.
Good morning, Nicole Olivier, member.
We do have other members of the committee. One is with us this morning, Mr. Randall Mitchell, but he has just responded to an emergency call given his ministerial capacity, and he will join us very, very shortly. Just to remind us that questions would be put to you through the chair, and your answers equally will be through the chair in order to maintain the order and minimize disruption as far as is practicable. I would like to remind myself and members that we put our phones on silent or take them off so as not to disturb these proceedings in any way. And I extend that reminder to all members or all persons in this room. This meeting is a continuation of the last public hearing that we would have had on Tuesday, March the 6th, 2018. I would therefore like to ask you, Mr. West, to make any opening comments if you have them, because you would have received our invitation in writing. You know particularly well why you are here. If there are any opening remarks, we are very happy to have them before I invite my colleagues to raise particular matters with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for that clarification. Honorable Chairman, members of the Special Select Committee, the Deputy Director and I comprise the Police Complaints Authority, a corporate body established pursuant to the Police Complaints Authority Act, Chapter 1505. We are an independent civilian oversight body to which complaints on police conduct are made. We can also initiate investigations. In this case, a complaint has been made by a senior attorney at law against the police in a matter where station bail.
Mr. West, I'm so sorry, but we proceeded, and I must bring to your attention, for the duration of our business so far, we, for very good reason, have not identified any of the persons who are mentioned in the notifications from His Excellency by name here, so as not to prejudice them or anyone else who have been considered by the PSC. In that regard, I would like to ask you to join us in so doing. And we have identified a code, copies of which is in front of you. So you will see candidate A, a certain person, and you will see candidate F, a certain person. Yes? Any reference to any person you wish to make this morning, you should check with your sheet and make sure we do it by letter. Thank you. Proceed.
Mr. Chairman, I have noted your statements, and we have the list in front of us, and I will take my guidance from the list.
Thank you very kindly. Yes. And as well, we took an in-house decision this morning that, for good reason as well, the largest of which is the question of, in our view, irrelevance, the actual nature or content of any complaint, but rather the fact of the complaint and the outcome. You, as attorney at law, will understand. It's slightly akin to the hearsay principle. We will deal with the fact of the complaint. A complaint was made against candidate A, B, C, D, G, or E, and the procedure that you followed and some timelines. Are we on the same page, Mr. West? Yes, we are. I thank you very warmly again. Thank you.
Yes. Well, Mr. Chairman, that having been said, we are here before the Special Select Committee to answer any questions that you may wish us to answer, and we are happy to be here before you all.
Thank you. As chairman, I will begin. I want to refer to candidate F in particular on your code. And we would like to know, when did you receive and when did you commence investigation into any alleged misconduct on the part of candidate F? When did you receive and when did you begin the investigation in relation to candidate F? Candidate F, we are told, was the subject of your attention at some point in respect of an allegation or, yeah? So we would like to know, when did you receive notice of this issue and when did you commence your investigation?
Sorry. Thank you. We received the complaint on the 12th of September 2011. And we commenced investigations on the 16th of November 2011.
Repeat those dates for me, please, sir.
We received the complaint on the 12th of September 2011.
Yes.
And we began our investigation on the 16th of November 2011.
Right. For the benefit of the listening public, sorry.
12th of when? And then we started investigation. Okay, let me just clarify, Mr. Chairman. We received the complaint on the 12th of September 2011.
Yes.
And we began investigations on the 16th of November 2011.
Thank you very warmly. Now, the Act does say what a complaint is,
yes.
And you received a complaint on the 12th of September 2011.
Yes.
For the benefit of the listeners, could you tell us what a complaint is so that they can understand, we can understand what you received?
A complaint by law includes an allegation of police corruption, serious police misconduct, the commission of a criminal offense by a police officer, or the commission of a criminal offense by any other person but involving a police officer. That is what a complaint is.
Thank you very much. Let me identify the first two categories you referred to, i.e., police corruption and serious police misconduct. Obviously, those two concepts are different. I would like, for my own edification, for you to share with me, this committee, what is the difference between those two as you have described them, and what is the threshold between serious police misconduct and police corruption from the standpoint of a complaint? I just want some clarification so that we will understand where we are.
Mr. Chairman, the best way to clarify it is by, again, referring to the Act where it is defined.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Police corruption is defined as an act done with an intent that is illegal, dishonest, or fraudulent, or failing to act in order to receive an advantage or reward, whether financial or otherwise, personally or for another person, group, or organization, or exercising a legitimate discretion for improper reasons, or employing illegal means to achieve approved goals. Serious police misconduct means the commission of a disciplinary offense under the Police Service Regulations 2007 as amended, which the authority considers to be so serious as to bring the police service into disrepute.
Right. So, in short, dishonest or fraudulent conduct, or taking action for one's own advantage or for the advantage of someone, or failing to take action and that sort of thing. And that reflects largely on the criminal law. Am I correct
That is
in
correct.
thinking so? And in respect of serious police misconduct, you reflect on the police regulations,
yes,
as written in the Police Service Act, or supporting the Police Service Act.
Yes.
Now, there is no doubt that some action that might be a breach of police regulations can also amount to a criminal offense. Am I correct?
That is.
Generally speaking, how do you view that threshold? What do you apply as an organization to decide which of those two fields you will lay your stock in? If you, just for the benefit of this committee and the viewers.
We would look at the circumstances of the case, of the facts presented to us. And based on the circumstances of the case, we would decide whether or not it fell within a category of police corruption or serious police misconduct.
Thank you very much. Of candidate F, having applied those considerations, which of those two fields did you fall in?
That would be serious police misconduct.
I thank you very much. I will now give way to my colleagues on the committee to put any questions that you may have in relation to this matter. Colleagues. Through the chair, Mr. Munilal, Dr. Munilal, thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Mr. West, the question really in a nutshell is, having regard to the information you gave earlier, you received a complaint on the 12th of September 2011, and speedily, one would think, began an investigation on the 16th of the 11th, 2011. When did that investigation, when was it completed?
The investigation was completed on the 24th of October, 2017.
Therefore, just, in a nutshell, what would have taken so long, this length of time, to conduct and complete this specific investigation?
The investigation did take a long time to complete, which is regrettable. I cannot speak for what happened between 2011 and November 2014 when I was appointed director of the Police Complaints Authority. I can speak from what happened from 2014 to the present.
2014 when you were appointed?
I was not appointed. Sure. I do apologize. I was not the director at that time, so I do not know what transpired with the former authority between 2011 and 2014. I could speak to what happened from 2014 to 2017. Yes. Okay. In 2014, when I became director of the Police Complaints Authority, we had over 1,556 complaints existing in the authority. We had roughly 20 investigators in the Police Complaints Authority. These investigators are divided into different teams, okay? So we had a 2011 team, a 2012 team to look at different years for different cases. I tried to manage the cases and reduce the backlog as fast as possible. However, it wasn't really until 2017 when the current deputy director came on board that we had a new style of case management where we effectively had a hands-on approach in looking to reduce the backlog of cases. So the deputy director took some cases, some years, I should say, and I took certain years. And then we worked on that. That is when the matter with candidate F came on, not until June, that he was in the 2011 matters that we had to try to complete within as short as possible time as possible. So we were just doing investigations. There were issues with that file in terms of disagreements, in terms of how we should proceed. Instructions were given to do certain things, and they were not carried out in a timely fashion. So when we came on, when the deputy director, who actually had the lead on that file, came on board, took over the progress of that file to its completion.
Clarification here. When you both came on board, you met a substantial backlog of matters for handling.
Sorry, Chairman, I came on board in 2014. The deputy came on in 2017. So
right. So when you came on board, you met a substantial backlog of work.
Yes, that is correct.
And of course, in the course of the work of the PCA, it's happening. But when the deputy director came on, it appears as though commendably she made a suggestion or introduced a system that you considered to be more efficient.
That is correct, yes.
And it is in that drive, all the old files that were sitting there unattended, yes, candidate F's matter came up.
Yes.
Right, because it was among the pile.
Correct.
Good. And from your reflection on that file, you are telling this committee, from your perusal of the file, since you can't know exactly what transpired before 2014, you're coming on board, and for the same reason, the deputy, from your perusal of the file, you found, and I'm now directing this to the deputy who took over that file, you found that the file did not make progress prior to your intervention because there were certain disagreements by persons who had any dealing with it. Is that correct?
That is correct. That is correct, Mr. Chairman.
And in addition to this, instructions were given in relation to its progress that were not carried out. Is that correct?
That is correct, Mr. Chairman.
And you took it upon yourself to rectify those encumbrances and get on with it.
To the best of my ability, yes.
And that is what explains, in answer to my colleague's question, the gap between the complaint being received and the investigation being completed. Is that the case?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. That's it.
Yes. Well, I don't really, Madam Deputy, want you to thank me. I just want you to tell me whether
that's exactly what happened.
What the circumstances were. Not that I don't appreciate your thanks, but yes. Dr. Munila.
But I want to thank you for the clarity that came quickly. But I just want to go back to that issue, Mr. West, if I may. In preparing to appear before us, clearly you know the nature of the matters before us and so on. Did you undertake any inquiry at all as to why prior to 2014, when you came on board, that matter, was stuck between 2011 to 2014? Or is it the same issue that we go back to, that it was a conflict among persons, it was persons not carrying out instructions and that type of thing? Is it the same reasoning?
Member, you see, what happened was the authority was only properly constituted on the 1st of January 2011. This matter was in September. So the authority at that time was new, and they were more or less finding their feet. Now, they had different methods of dealing with, different methods of dealing with complaints. Now, I don't want to go into details because I was not there. This is hearsay. This is what I was told, what accounted for the backlog in the matters. So I don't really want to speak on it. But all I could say is that there was a turnover of staff. There was a change in authority. Unfortunate incidents happened that caused a delay in progress in this file.
Incidents, but we are hearing by unfortunate incidents you mean internal conflict on taking the matter forward, conducting their business in a timely manner. Is that what you mean by unfortunate incidents? What you
in that the unfortunate meaning that the authority was in its infancy at the time. They had a turnover of staff at the time, and the director well, she became a justice. We know who she is now, and so therefore that is what I mean by unfortunate, and the turnover in the staff.
Yes, Mr. Dialsing.
So, yes. Mr. West, just for absolute clarity, there was no conflict within the body of the PCA as to any investigation into any person. It was simply due to newness of the authority, probably lack of human resources and other administrative failings, which have since been corrected. Just put on the record, it was not due to any conflict.
That is correct. There was no conflict within the PCA in this matter.
Mr. Director, if I may just ask by way of context, what has been the performance of the PCA in dealing with all investigations? So if you have the statistics as to what percentage of matters they dealt with on an annual basis, just so we could understand how the authority was operating during the entire period.
Sure. Well, since 2017, when the new case management system has come into being, we have closed 559 matters. 9 were sent to the DPP, 36 went sent to the Commissioner of Police, and 1 was sent to the Police Service Commission. So there's been a vast improvement in the disbursement of files.
If I can just get an idea of how it performed prior to that, in terms of, because I think you indicated when you came in, was there over 1,000 cases still outstanding? So just to get an idea of whether the authority has been functioning efficiently from its inception.
As I said, between December 2010 and September 30th, 2014, there were 1,556 complaints within the authority. Right now, we are now down to we're below 700 complaints now.
Yeah, just to piggyback on that question, what is your average turnaround time now between complaint and recommendation determination?
Well, again, that would all depend on the circumstances and the complexity of the matter. So I can't give a 2 months or 3 months time frame. It all depends. What we have done now is we have instituted what we call summary matters. So we have isolated matters that for assault by beating, for example, that are summary matters. We have fast-tracked those matters so they can be completed within the 6-month time frame to send over to the Director of Public Prosecutions for prosecutions if he sees fit.
Or, assaulted by officers, those would fall in the category of not serious police misconduct, but those will fall in the category of police corruption.
That were criminal offenses by police officers.
Well, yes, but we had 2 broad headings earlier. Police corruption, where we looked at matters that affected criminal law, and then we had serious police misconduct, which affected regulations, breaches of regulations, those 2 broad categories. So anyway, allegations of assault by officers will not be treated as serious police misconduct.
That's a criminal offense.
Category.
That's a criminal offense.
Yes, I take that. Ms. Oliver.
Thank you very much. So in an earlier answer, you just indicated the outcome of the matters that you would have investigated. I think you said 9 were forwarded to the DPP and a larger number was forwarded to the Police Service Commission? Was it
no, 1 matter was sent to the Police Service Commission and 36 matters went to the Commissioner of Police.
Okay, so what I would like to get an indication of is what happens after you make your recommendations and you forward these matters to these various entities. Is there an obligation then on these entities to abide by your recommendations? What has been the practice with all the various entities and how have they treated with your recommendations?
Under the law, we make recommendations to these bodies, the Commissioner of Police, the DPP, or any other state body. There's no obligation. There's no obligation on them to respond to us or legal requirement to respond to us or to let us know what has happened. What we do in our letters that we transmit to them is that we ask them for feedback. But they are not obliged in law to give us feedback.
Well, they're not obliged to give you feedback, but is there any obligation to pay attention to what you said, to take the action that you are recommending?
No. It is up to them to decide how they wish to proceed further. We only make a recommendation.
Is having made your recommendations under law to either the police commissioner and the director of public prosecution or any other state agency. In this case, we are talking about the Police Service Commission. You made recommendations too. Having made such recommendations, does the PCA, notwithstanding the absence of an obligation on the part of the recipient of your recommendation, does the PCA follow up at all? Does it get back to them 6 months later, 3 months later to find out, did you do anything, Mr. Director of Public Prosecutions or Mr. Commissioner of Police, or in this case, the Police Service Commission, with the recommendations that we worked so hard to put together and to send to you? Does the PCA routinely seek feedback?
Yes, we do. We normally send a list to the relative bodies that we have worked on these matters. Can you tell us can you tell us the outcome of these matters? Because we would like to know for our files,
yeah,
what is the eventual outcome.
Yes.
So that's what we do.
Now, in relation to candidate F, you would have sent your recommendations. Well, let me ask, to whom did you send recommendations after your investigation in relation to candidate F?
Yeah, we sent it to the chairman of the Police Service Commission.
Only the Police Service Commission?
Yes.
Was that sent as a matter of routine, or was it in response to a request from the Police Service Commission to you for information in the case of candidate F? Yes, Madam Deputy,
no.
We'd be happy to hear of you.
The recommendation.
Since you were the one who handled that particular matter.
I made the recommendation under Section 44 of the Act, and I sent that recommendation pursuant to the power under Section 44 of the Act.
In relation to candidate F, did you get any request from the Police Service Commission?
On the 13th and 14th of November last year, we received requests from the Police Service Commission in relation to candidate F.
On what dates?
On the 14th is the precise date, but we also received correspondence on the 13th. 13th and 14th November last year, 2017.
So your recommendations went to the PSC, as a result of the request of the 13th and 14th, or was it sent prior to that in the routine functioning of the PCA?
My recommendation was sent pursuant to the routine functioning of the PCA and the results of the investigation.
So, and that was sent, your recommendation, prior to the 13th and 14th requests?
No, the recommendation went on the 30th of November, 2017.
Yes.
There was a request for clarification on the 12th of December, 2017, and we resubmitted on the 27th of December, 2017.
All right. So finally, from me on this matter, the first time you sent any recommendation in relation to candidate F would have been after the 13th and 14th requests from the PSC.
Yes, sir. Yes, Mr. Chairman.
And you did so notwithstanding in accordance with Section 44 of the Act.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman.
That's what you're saying.
Yes, sir.
So it is reasonable to assume, or let me put it differently, it will not be unreasonable to assume that you sent it in accordance with Section 44, but in response to the request.
No, respectfully, no, Mr. Chairman. When I made the recommendation under Section 44,
yes,
it was as a result of the investigation, having received the complaint,
oh, I see,
completing the investigation, and then making the recommendation under Section 44.
So their request and your sending it was just a coincidence.
I will use your word if I'm allowed. I beg your indulgence to use that word. But
yes,
to be clear,
yes,
in response to their request, their specific request,
yes,
another piece of correspondence had been sent in relation to that.
Okay.
So my recommendation is in relation to my Section 44 responsibilities.
Yes. Yes, indeed, Madam Oliver.
If I may ask, well, under Section 44, Part 3, you are also required to inform the complainant and the officer concerned. So on what date would the complainant and the officer concerned have been informed?
The complainant and the officer concerned were notified on the 30th of November, 2017.
Thank you. To whomsoever can answer. Under legal notice number 218, where the firm is engaged, under Section 3C, the firm shall ensure that the candidates referred to in the paragraph B are subject to the best practice security vetting and recent professional vetting. Did KPMG, who is the firm, write to the Police Complaints Authority at any time under the power of this order to inquire as to professional and security vetting of any candidate? Sure, of course.
You would like to clarify that. Peruse your notes, please.
Mr. Chair, KPMG never wrote us directly. It was through the Police Service Commission. They wrote to us.
Okay, I'm not putting you on the spot, but I keep saying in these hearings, to a layman's reading of this order, it is clear to me what the duties of the firm are, KPMG. And it says here, and again, the firm shall select the applicants. The firm shall ensure that the candidates referred to are subject to the best practice security and recent professional vetting. It is my contention all through these hearings that KPMG should have undertaken their duty and not the Police Service Commission alone, that KPMG should have written to the Police Complaints Authority to seek information as to the security and professional vetting of all the shortlisted candidates, at least the shortlisted one. You are now saying, Director, that KPMG never wrote directly to the Police Complaints Authority. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Thank you very much.
Mr. West, could I just follow up? Can a private company, auditing company, human resource management, consultancy firm, and so on, can a private company write you and ask you for confidential information?
No, because under our Act, we have a duty of confidentiality. Okay, so therefore, a private company in isolation writing me for information I would not give. Okay? If it is linked to, for example, this process, then I have a discretion whether or not to give the information or not.
Yes, because in which case, might think aloud, in which case the firm is acting lawfully and on behalf of the Police Service Commission in the circumstances.
That is correct, yes.
Yes.
Mr. West, could I just clarify that the Police Service Commission wrote the PCA to seek the PCA's assistance in support of the work of KPMG, of the consultancy firm? I want to ask, how did you know of KPMG? Where did they come from? How did you ever hear of them in this matter?
The chairman of the Police Service Commission would have contacted me and told me that KPMG was assisting them in the hiring process.
So, however, informally, the Police Service Commission confirmed the legitimacy of KPMG in the process to you.
Definitely, yes.
I thank you very much. Madam Oliver.
I would just like to go back a bit, just the last piece on the outcome of your investigations. I mean, what happens following your investigation. So you said that there is no obligation for persons to take the actions that you recommend. And there's no obligation to provide feedback, but you do, in fact, from time to time, seek feedback. Could you give me an indication, then, of the type of feedback that you have gotten from the various entities that you would have sent recommendations to, if you have an idea of the number of matters in which they would have taken your recommendations or not?
Well, most of the feedback is that we note your letter dated so-and-so, and your matter is being considered by the body, and that would be it. It would be no long expansion. It would be just an acknowledgement of our question.
And so, well, if you'll just indulge me, while this question isn't direct pertaining to the issues at hand, but certainly members of the general public would make complaints against officers, and once that is investigated by the authority, and if you pass that on, I'm wondering what confidence the members of the public would have that the authority haven't investigated something and it's passed on, that anything is done with their report. So have you done any work to at least see if persons do get satisfaction at the end of the process?
We have done that, and I have spoken to different heads of the bodies informally about the matter. But while I'm here, I could plug we have made recommendations for amendments to our Police Complaints Authority Act. And in the recommendations, we ask for, in the statute, that within a certain amount of time, when we ask for feedback on the recommendation, we are given it. Yes.
So that's just a few short questions, and to follow up on Member Oliveri. This process is very important for public education as well, because it is or will be televised in full. What would a recommendation be? Because we have read in the law that you recommend. For example, hypothetically, a police constable is accused of some serious police misconduct and so on. You have investigated. You believe that, the allegations may have some truth in them. What would you recommend to the relevant authority, whether it's the police service, the commissioner, DPP, or you would recommend charges, you would recommend suspension, dismissal? What would a recommendation be, if I can ask, just as the first question?
Well, a recommendation varies. For example, if it is we're investigating an assault by a police constable, we will recommend to the DPP that charges be laid under the Summary Offences Act for assault. If it is we find a matter with serious police misconduct, we would identify the section within the Police Service Act, Service Regulation, and we would identify what the evidence was. It would be like a brief for the police, and then he would decide whether or not to establish a tribunal to look into the matter. Sometimes we have made recommendations, for example, CCTV cameras in police stations. We make recommendations that police officers wear their numbers at all times. So recommendations take different forms. I hope I've answered.
That is fantastic. I really wanted to sift out. It's helpful for members of the public as well to understand what recommendations could be and what they might be. Just to confirm a matter raised earlier, that the submission by the PCA to the PSC in relation to the candidate F came after the PSC approached you for information on several persons. It came after, but it was coincidental because it fell into the normal run course of your investigations being completed, and you would have, in the course of your duty, submitted that in any event. That is what we got earlier. Could I ask a question? In the case of candidate F, what was the substantive rank in 2011 when the complaint was made?
Mr. Chairman, through you, if I have your leave, If I'm to answer this question, am I going into the contents of the complaint?
Madam PCA, because you constitute the PCA together. If in your professional assessment you will do that, I would urge you, for the reasons we have stated, not to. You can simply indicate that you will not answer that question and explain why. Please.
But, Honorable Member, I do not think it is appropriate for me to identify the rank at this stage, because that was one of the matters that we took into consideration during the investigation of the matter.
But could I say, without necessarily wanting a response, the rank of candidate F in 2011 should be a matter of public record. It should be a matter of well-known. We can easily check on that. But are you saying the issue of rank was also the subject of an allegation?
Because of what we had to look at in terms of who did what and where things came from, rank was a feature that we looked at. I know I'm speaking, as we're constituted, I'm probably speaking like a lawyer, but rank was something that we looked at.
Well, then you are suggesting that there may have been a dispute over that issue, because the point I am making is that when our chairman, Fitzgerald Ethelbert Hines, left the police service, we can easily find out his high rank when he left. It is a matter for the public. If it is that you cannot divulge that information now, because it may have been a matter of discussion or dispute, it's fine, because I can answer the question outside of the committee. So I would not want you to say anything outside of that.
Madam Deputy, the question was asked. We have recorded your answer.
Very grateful.
And I think my colleague understands.
Very grateful, sir.
The circumstances.
Very grateful,
and yes. I have, as we approach our close, because, we must, I want to ask two questions of you. Well, Mr. Mitchell said he had a question, please.
Yeah, just quickly, just for my understanding, when you make a recommendation in the course of your work, do you also support that recommendation with any sort of evidence that would have caused you to come upon the recommendation?
Yes, when we submit our recommendation, we submit a file of the evidence.
As well?
As well, yes.
Okay, so the PSC and, the PSC would have had sight of the evidence in support of your recommendation?
Yes, they would have had, yes.
You, for clarification. And again, if you think that my question would breach the principle that we had established, you don't have to answer. In relation to candidate F, you wrote to the PSC, the Police Service Commission. Did you write to anyone else?
In compliance with the law, I wrote to the complainant, and I wrote to the officer who was the subject matter of our deliberation.
All right. I was talking about anyone else in terms of the DPP, the police commissioner, or the PSC. In this case, you only wrote to the PSC. And under law, you notified the person against whom the allegation was made, principles of natural justice and the outcome.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
And as well the complainant, so he or she would know that the matter was heard and investigated. Am I correct?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
But you did not have reason to write to the commissioner nor the DPP?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Good. So now the question, bearing in mind the principle, and you're not to answer if you think it would breach that principle, what were the recommendations in relation to candidate F? Because Mr. West told us what recommendations would typically be in answer to Dr. Monilal.
The recommendations were for the consideration of disciplinary proceedings.
Great. Thank you very much. I have one other question.
Could I clarify that?
All right, Dr. Monilal wants
just on that issue before the chairman continues. The recommendations were to institute disciplinary proceedings against the candidate, or to, how?
Under the Act,
Yeah.
the recommendations are for the consideration of the institution of criminal, well, in this case, disciplinary proceedings.
Under the Act, it will always be for consideration because that now falls within the domain of the PSC or the DPP or the commissioner. All you do is investigate and send it with recommendations.
Yes, Mr.
So that is the point.
And so just to clarify, sorry.
Mr. Chair,
Just
oh, well,
Madam Oli.
Just to clarify, Section
Yes, Mr.
44.2
Yes.
of the Act, which we are bound by,
Yes.
is specific. And it is, the authority may, based on its assessment or opinion under subsection 1, recommend whether consideration should be given to prosecute any person for a criminal offense or invoke disciplinary proceedings.
Right.
So it's a consideration.
Fine, thank you. Madam Oliver, I'll give way before mine. Go ahead.
if I may just ask, so consideration to invoke disciplinary proceedings, did you specify under which section of the regulations that those proceedings should be invoked against?
I wish to seek the chairman's protection in relation to that. I don't think it's appropriate for me to go into the nitty-gritty as to which section we recommended or which subsection we recommended.
Mr. West or Ms. Solomon Bash, just to confirm that the Police Service Commission requested your assistance in their process by way of looking not at one, but of several named persons who they were considering. Is that so? And this, the several would have included candidate F, but others.
That is correct.
Yeah.
Just for further clarification, does that mean all of the persons who are being considered by the PSC? How many persons information was sought from you about, from the PSC? What do you mean?
11 persons.
11. Thank you. Good.
Can I continue?
11. Okay? Right. I have one more question.
Mr. West, so that you're telling us that there were other persons as well, other candidates, and you have, of course, the list with you. Mr. West, I want to ask for myself and a very important question for me. On that list of candidates were also person or persons known to you? In that a candidate there, and I'll call the number, candidate K, it is public knowledge, has been involved in a matter that you are involved in. At any time did you seek to recuse yourself from this process, given that connection? I'm just asking the question because it is a matter in the public as well.
Let me, as chairman, that it is Dr. Munilal. I mean, I will allow Mr. West to answer, but as chairman, I think whether a candidate is known to you, being put to the Police Complaints Authority is as wide as it is broad. It's a very difficult question. But I suspect Mr. West,
Chairman,
I suspect Mr. West might be able to answer.
But that's what's the record. In the interest of not getting into detail, I prefer to use that why.
I understand. Yes. Yes. And
yes, I know, but
yeah.
it is so broad that it has lost its root in what we are doing.
I can rephrase.
Just now, hold on, folks. Permit me, members. I think the question is so broad, and it is not, I can safely say I think it is not very relevant to what is in front of us. I can safely say that. 1 second, Dr. Moore. Just a second. Just a second. Just a second. We are past the time that we had contemplated for bringing this to an end. I still have one question that we have not asked. Why the
Thank you. Now, you were asked for information on 11 candidates. Apart from candidate F, are there any other candidates that you would have been able, that you would have sent a feedback to the Police Service Commission on?
Yes. Candidate D.
Question today. Are you aware, in the context of your legislative authority, the law that guides the PCA establishes and dictates the affairs of the PCA, of any statutory limitation that will affect your recommendations, whether that statutory limitation falls within your law or any judgment that you are aware of touching and concerning your work? In other words, and put more concisely, if you submitted your recommendations to, in this case, the Police Service Commission, are you, PCA, or the corporate PCA, aware of any limitation, not on summary offenses, but on action to be taken on your recommendation by anybody you would submit a recommendation to? Is the question clear, sufficiently clear?
Yeah.
A member wants me to just recast it. I would like to know, Mr. West, Madam Solomon Bashk, whether when you complete an investigation and submit your recommendation, whether you are aware of any time bar that would invalidate, nullify the effect of your recommendation to whom you would have dispatched it. Is the question clear? Is the question now clear? Yes.
There is no statutory limitation that I am aware of that can time bar a recommendation made by the
Thank you very much.
PCA.
Follow up on this. Are you aware of any judgment in which the court has... His response was statutory.
Yeah, no, I did ask whether he's aware of any... Just this whether there was any known statutory or time bar or any judgment known by you that affected the validity of your recommendation. That's the question? Your answer?
The only judgment I'm aware of relates to the Police Service Commission and not the Police Complaints Authority. Okay.
Members will know a sitting of the Parliament to start very shortly, in which case it falls to me, Mr. West, in your capacity as Chairman of the PCA, and Madam Michelle Solomon Bashk in your capacity as Deputy, together constituting the body corporate of the PCA, it falls to me on behalf of this committee, on behalf of the Parliament, on behalf of the people of Trinidad and Tobago, to thank you for your very, very valid and wonderful service to this country in those public offices. And we thank you specifically for breaking stride and coming here this morning at our request. You have brought great help, great clarification to matters that are gaining the attention of this committee, and we would like again to thank you very, very kindly and to ask if you have any closing words before you depart us, apart from the fact that you would like to see your law amended.
That would be very good. So, Chairman, members of this select committee, we, the authority, are very grateful that we were of assistance to you all. We remain available, amenable to be of further assistance if you soon deem fit. And we are just happy to be here and give the evidence that we have given.
And we are most grateful yet again. Thank you very much. And we will now permit you your very gracious and dignified departure from these precincts. We thank you very much again. Gracious is the word. And we suspend this fifth meeting for the departure of our guests, and then we resume very, very promptly for close.